We are the Lab Doctors. I'm Amanda.
I'm Dorothy.
And I'm Zhao Yong.
We are biomedical researchers who realized we still have a lot to learn about science.
So why not join us on this quest?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lab Doctors podcast. So these 2 weeks, we're going to have a 2-part episode about sensory memory. So what do you guys think of when I say sensory memory?
You remember what a hot kettle feels like.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense now. When you came out with those words, I was just like, oh my god, the last few weeks have been just like hard topics. Yeah, I guess so.
So isn't all memory a form of sensory memory? Because if I remember how someone looks,
Yeah, you're using a sense.
yeah, I don't know, wouldn't all memory be attributed to a sense?
Touch,
Okay.
smell, sight. What other senses do we have? Hearing.
Soul, power, time, space,
No, can you talk about the
reality.
the 5 real senses?
Okay, so we can go into the 5 senses later.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. Okay, so you're right. That is one of the proposed theories of like how memory works. So sometimes memory can be divided into sensory memory and then short-term and long-term memory. So memory is the process by which your brain takes in and processes information, stores it, and retrieves it later. So as I said, one of these types of memory is sensory memory. It's very, very short term. So it's shorter than what we call short-term memory. And it's estimated to last for a few hundred milliseconds to a maximum of a few seconds, depending on which sense is taking in the memory. They are stored for as long as the sense is being stimulated. And then these 5 senses, which are directly linked to the CNS, right? So
Central nervous system.
yes. So these sensory memories are then reprocessed and associated with the memory that may be stored as a short-term memory or eventually even long-term memory. An analogy that some people sometimes use is that sensory memories are the raw data that your brain then processes to make sense and order. So our sensory systems are constantly receiving and processing an incredible amount of information, making it virtually impossible to recognize all of this information. So not all of it will get converted into short-term memory. Okay, so what are the types of sensory memory? So you guys can throw out a sense and then I will run through it.
Hearing.
Okay, hearing. So hearing or auditory memory, or sometimes it's referred to as echoic memory, like echo, is, for example, when you listen to and recall a list of items. So besides actually hearing something, the tone that you hear it in also matters. So the brain is better able to process memories when there are differences in sensation. So the ability to listen to a song and recognize it also involves echoic memory, and so does the ability to understand language and speech. So this form of memory records each syllable or sound and connects it to the next syllable, helping your brain recognize words or sentences that you can understand. Okay, so next.
Sense of sight.
Okay, so seeing or visual memory is also known as iconic memory. So these are associated with the things that you see, right? So it has a large amount of storage. And the brighter the image, the longer it will retain in your iconic memory.
Brighter. So like I remember the sun the most.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, just stare at the sun and that's the memory I'll
The
remember.
thing is like I can't even see the sun.
I guess there are limits, but then like, yeah, the brighter or clearer the image, the longer it remains in your iconic memory. So it's like, I don't know if people are short-sighted or whatever, like if you take off your glasses, you don't really remember what you see because everything is not very clear.
It's a blur.
Okay, so interestingly, research has found that the eyes aren't able to transmit some objects in motion. So for visual memory to work well, you and whatever you are observing must be still. So if it's moving, your brain is not good at transmitting the signals clearly. So your brain can't fully transmit the image well enough to commit to memory. And apparently the reason why we can still remember things that are moving is that the brain has other methods for creating memory other than visual sensory memory. Okay, so I thought it was kind of cool because how does our brain remember moving objects then? Because clearly like there's a lot of things moving, but we still remember it, right?
Yeah.
So one of the tools that our brain uses to perceive moving objects is that our brain perceives it to be further along in their trajectory than what your eyes actually see. We are actually predicting where the object is going to be. So instead of just processing out-of-date visual cues, our brain is also processing where the things are going to be.
Yeah, that's why some people, myself included, have like shitty hand-eye coordination because we just can't visualize where it will be.
So when you're looking at a moving object, it's not just your visual sensory memory, it's also like whether you can predict and like coordination and everything. Yeah. Okay, so it's also a bit different than hearing. So one of the differences here is that if you see a list of things, say I give you a paper with a list of words, you're more likely to remember the first item and not the last one. Whereas if you hear a list of words being read to you, you tend to remember the first and last words spoken the most. Okay, so we've gone through sight and hearing, so there are 3 more.
Wait, isn't there like proprioception also and all those other vestibular?
There is, but we're gonna go through the 5 major sensory memories.
Smell.
Okay, smell. So olfactory memory, this happens when you smell something. It also helps to identify taste because molecules from food that you are chewing are picked up by the nose. So without smell, you would only be able to taste basic flavors. And interestingly, smell also conveys emotion.
Yeah, that's why when you go to some place or you smell something or you smell like someone's perfume or cologne.
Cologne? Or colon, I guess.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so like one thing that is like a very key trigger to me now is the animal house smell.
Oh. Yeah. The animal house smells like just
Oh my god.
it's iconic.
It's iconic.
Except iconic memory is sight memory, so...
It's a different form.
Okay, next. There's 2 more.
Taste then, since we are related.
Yes,
related.
taste. So taste or gustatory memory.
Gastronomia, that's all I know.
So this is associated with taste, closely related to olfactory memory. So it can also help recall old memories, like if you eat something once that made you sick, you may feel nauseous the next time you eat that food. Okay, so this is an evolutionary advantage that helps you avoid poisonous foods by remembering things that may be harmful.
Right.
Okay, so lastly, touch memory or haptic memory includes sensations like pressure, pain, itching, or something that feels good. It helps you recognize what is happening based on touch. It also helps you play a musical instrument because haptic memory helps you sense when your fingers are playing the right notes. So haptic memory also helps when you're typing. So visual, auditory, and touch are more well studied than the other 2. So my next question is, which sensory memory do you think is the strongest?
Smell.
Taste.
Okay, so why do you think so?
I think smell because like for me personally, whenever I smell something, like insect repellent.
Are you a dog? No, like, just kidding.
Maybe I am. But like, I wish I was a dog. Anyway.
You're not as sharp smelling as a dog.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, because dogs have way more
They
sensory,
can smell
like
cancer.
olfactory senses.
They can even smell cancer.
Smell COVID.
Yeah, they can smell COVID. Anyway, if I smell insect repellent now, I will be brought back to the many times where, like in the past, as a child, when I went on camps and I smelled insect repellent, and then certain type of perfumes, or I don't know if it's like shower foam, but like it's just kind of weird. But like sometimes when like, I smell my friend, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my friend.
Yeah, that's true. Like some people use a certain detergent.
Yes.
And it's like, if it's nice smelling, or I don't know, I'll be like, oh, actually I want to use yours. What detergent to use because it's damn nice smell.
Yeah. But like if I smell that smell, then I'm like, oh, I'm reminded of that friend. Yeah.
Okay. So Dorothy, do you have anything to back up your taste?
I think, okay, because now like everyone's a foodie, but so I feel like I would remember more things when you eat. Because I think smell is not that sharp
Okay.
for me. So I feel like when you eat, usually be like, oh, this tastes like I ate it somewhere.
Right.
That kind of feeling. Whereas sight, right, I feel like it's something that we always, like, we cannot really remember.
It's like I like lose the memory, right?
Instantly.
Yeah. And you create a false memory about it.
Yeah.
And touch is like just
Hot or cold. That's all I can think
no,
of.
it's just like just typing. That's all I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is actually olfactory memory or the sense of smell. But
Damn.
what Dorothy said about taste, right?
It's
so
related.
actually your taste buds without smell, all you can taste is like the base taste. So you can taste just sweet or salty or bitter.
What's on your tongue?
Yes, what's on your tongue? So say you eat
Receptors.
like vanilla ice cream, right? If you didn't smell it, all you would taste is sweet.
Yes.
But the reason why you can taste vanilla is because of your smell, like
Oh.
your sense of smell.
Right.
So actually you were kind of right because you were saying distinguishing between the flavors. It's just that you distinguish the flavors by like your sense of smell. Okay, so do you have any theories as to why the sense of smell is the best at evoking a memory?
I think it's the one that we detect the fastest, as in anything that's hazardous. So if it's like a hazardous smell, we'll immediately get out of there, but we might not be able to see the thing, but we don't need to see the thing to smell it.
Yes, I don't need to touch it and I don't need to eat
Yeah.
it. Right. And it's large scale, like the smell just drifts. Like I can smell someone shitting.
Oh my god.
You just walk past the toilet and be like, who
I
shit?
didn't expect the conversation to go there.
But it's true, like sometimes when you walk into the toilet and it's like,
You'll be like, someone just shit.
and then sometimes the sense of hearing helps you. So
No,
when
it's
you're
like they might have just freshly left, but then it's like you'll be like a bit grossed out because their shit particles are still like around. in
No.
the air.
But why I say hearing is because sometimes they're still in the midst of it, and then you like have your nose, and then you hear
And then
to
you confirm it.
I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it to know.
Okay, so evolutionarily, that might be why our sense of smell is the strongest. But from a neurobiological standpoint, a recent study published in Progress in Neurobiology compared how the hippocampus functions across the different human sensory systems. So if you recall from our Forgotten Baby Syndrome episode,
Okay.
the hippocampus plays a major role in memory. So this study found that the olfactory system, or your sense of smell, was more strongly connected with the hippocampus than the other senses. Specifically, the olfactory system retained a direct connection with the hippocampus, whereas the other neural sense pathways were rerouted to different regions of the brain. So it's connected to the hippocampus through an intermediary association cortex, rather than directly to the hippocampus itself.
Okay.
So obviously we don't know why, but evolutionarily they think that it could be because it helps you sense danger and like it confers a higher survival advantage if it's fast and if you remember it.
Right.
And maybe like there's lower chance of you getting poisoned by smell.
Yeah. Like it's not as damaging as something like maybe I taste because
Yeah,
it's already
Like if you
Ingested.
eat shit,
yeah.
smell shit.
versus looking at it and touching it.
Okay, so odors also take a direct route to another part of the limbic system, which is the region of the brain that is related to emotion and memory. So another part of the limbic system is the amygdala, which is related to emotion.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why olfactory memory is also associated with an emotion. So say feeling peaceful with the scent of grass or like nature sense, or like jumpy when you smell smoke. So another cool thing about smell is that it's the only fully developed sense as a fetus and the most developed sense in a child through the age of around 10. And then after which sight takes over. So
That makes sense.
yeah, so therefore it is
That
believed
makes sense.
So therefore, it is believed that childhood tends to be the period in which you create the basis for the smells that you like and hate for the rest of your life.
Oh, so I should be made to smell vegetables. Then I'll be like, yeah, I like vegetables.
That's why I hate spring onions and onion.
Oh my god, yeah.
Right.
Maybe.
Because they exposed you too much.
No, like,
You already decided.
yeah,
Yeah.
from very young.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a bit of contention for where the rest of the senses rank. But so we have smell coming in first, and then taste, followed by hearing at third, and tied for last is touching and seeing. But don't quote me on that because scientists haven't agreed.
Okay. Wait, so this is just the general, like, what people feel.
Take a survey.
This is what the literature is pointing at so far.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So one last thing about smell is that prior research has found a strong bidirectional relationship between olfaction and depression. So patients suffering from anosmia, or the decreased sense of smell, are more likely to display signs of depression, whilst conversely, those suffering from depression often show reduced olfactory performance. So this scientist, Zelano, says considering that anosmia is a key symptom of COVID-19, there is an urgent need to understand how our neural olfactory processes are linked to cognition, memory, and well-being.
Is that why people are so depressed when they get COVID? Because they can't smell and then they'll be like...
They propose that that might be one of the reasons
And then like,
why.
I'm cooped up in the room, so I'm only seeing the same things.
That's why I should get, like, scented candles and it's just aromatherapy.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah, you should.
I feel like if I get scented candles, I'll be addicted. I get addicted to, like, a lot of things.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of the first part, which is like just sensory memory. So stay tuned for next week's episode, where we'll be talking about echoic memory or auditory memory.
And as usual, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Spotify. A like and a comment will really help us out.
You can also follow us on our social media, Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, and feel free to DM us any questions.
Alternatively, you can email us at thelabdoctors@gmail.com. We'll post all the article links in the episode description, so you can check that out. See you!